So the overarching aim of the report that we did was to critically look at the financial irregularities of ministries, departments, and agencies between 2021 and 2023. And what we find is that between 2021 and 2023, irregularities was about 4.9 billion Ghana cedis. This 4.9 billion Ghana cedis is equivalent to 2.63% of our GDP in 2023, which is very significant. But what was very telling too is that 90% of these irregularities are tax irregularities, which means that while we keep talking about the low revenue mobilization, there are still a lot of uncollected revenues that the Auditor General keeps citing as a reflection of weak revenue enforcement. What was also important is that we're also able to see that these irregularities represent at least more than 2 times of how much we spend on poverty reduction programs like LEAP and the Ghana School Feeding Program. And that if we should invest all the financial irregularities between 2021 and 2023 into the Ghana School Feeding Program, it could feed each child about 6 Ghana cedis per day. And so that tells us that these financial irregularities could be losses or could be savings that could have been made. And so whilst we are pushing for more fiscal prudence and we are pushing that government implement measures that can help us with a quick economic recovery or a more sustainable recovery, there's the need to actually go deep down to the institutional level to address these gaps and also make sure that we put in measures that ensure that public institutions are compliant with the Public Financial Management Act. So that was the overarching name of what we did. So what we believe is that there is an opportune moment for us to use the Fiscal Council or an establishment of an independent Fiscal Council that has the power to oversee and bite and stop some of the reckless expenditure items or activities undertaken by the government. And so we believe that the Fiscal Council is a very potent tool that can be leveraged, as we have seen in other countries like Jamaica and in Kenya, who actually went through severe macroeconomic crisis like us. But now they are using these Fiscal Council and bipartisan committees to ensure fiscal prudence. And that's why when we are pushing that there should be this establishment of that Fiscal Council and that they should be close to the powers to oversee every activity of government. In addition, what we are saying is that GRA has embarked on a lot of digitization of tax collection instruments. This is the time for us to accelerate and use them effectively to address the tax irregularities, given that that is the major source of financial irregularities in the Auditor General's report. Another recommendation is that we see a breakdown in the internal audit function, which means that if internal auditors were actually really working, some of these things would have been addressed. And so internal auditors must be given that power to play all the necessary role that they need to play within our PFM system so that we can stem the bleeding and address some of this fiscal indiscipline. So overall, we need a stronger Fiscal Council, even though the one that we had was just a committee, but all the political parties agree that we need a Fiscal Council, which means that let's take this opportunity to properly set up a Fiscal Council, let it be legally backed, but above more things, give it more power so that they can be able to do the real work that we want them to do. Then also enhance the internal audit function, which we can use all of these roles or all of these opportunities to address the fiscal indiscipline. More countries went through the same period and experienced much more worse growth than we experienced. If you take a country like Angola, if you look at their GDP growth, the way it decelerated and they almost entered into a serious recession. And that if you look at us, even though we grew, but it was less than 1%, which shows that if you look at the effects COVID and all some of these external factors had on some countries like Angola and other peers in the sub-region, they experienced worse situation than us. You understand? Therefore, all our macroeconomic challenges cannot be blamed on COVID and Ukraine, but they are deep-seated recklessness in the management of public finances, lack of real commitment to reforms. So we don't really commit to reforms. We do short-term reforms, we overlook it, then we go back to factory reset. And you were able to see evidently that after 5 public financial management reforms, all the problems that started in 1997 up to 2020, the last time we did a public financial management reform, all the problems still persist. In the new public financial management reform program, all of these problems are what this new reform seeks to address. So it tells you that it's not really a problem of COVID and Russia-Ukraine war, but within our institutions, they are not effective, and we've not really built stronger institutions to address fiscal discipline.